just a reminder then how things stand for Newcastle. They sit 8th in the table. They are 15 points off 4th. Of course, many expect them to finish top 4 once again this season. It just has not worked out for the second half of this campaign.
No, it hasn't. And listen, I think early on in the season, we blamed a lot of injuries, and rightly so, for Newcastle's stumbles. But even after Newcastle started getting players back fit, they just haven't been able to find that rhythm once again. And the game today kind of summed it up. Dominant over Everton. Everton had a short 10-minute spell where they were good, but that was about it. And even so, other than hitting the post, Dubravka didn't have anything out of the ordinary to do. And then you just go and concede as a really soft penalty, as you did there with Dummett and Young. And that has kind of summed up Newcastle's season in that when you play well, you somehow find ways to shoot yourself in the foot.
I'd like to see Eddie, to be honest with you, I'm not in the, at the moment, I'm not in the he needs to go, right? I'd like to see Eddie Howe and Newcastle regroup, get to the end of the season, assess the squad, dabble in the transfer market like they may, or they have got some financial fair play issues they have to deal with, and then go again. And if he's struggling and he doesn't pick it up, then he's in trouble. But what are you laughing at?
Because I'm going to say something that's going to make you angry.
No, because I already knew before I started about the Eddie Howe that you, because I'm already a step ahead of you, saying, what's the difference?
Well, I'd say there's an argument to say that he's had a worse season than Ten Hag.
I'll tell you what the difference is, and Shaka just touched on it. Dominant. A lot of the Newcastle performances have been, they've passed the eye test, a lot of them. There's not much. So we can put all the stats away. If you're a stats nerd and that's all you go on, sod off.
But isn't it about winning? Isn't it about points at the end?
But there's an eye test as well. And the eye test for me is when I'm watching Man United and I look at... And by the way, they spent a lot more than Newcastle. There's no doubt about that. When I look at Man United against teams, you're watching the game, you go, wow, how are they not competing? How are they giving up so many chances? How the hell are they picking these points up playing like that? Newcastle have had some moments like that, but generally their football has been better, right? For example, the thrashing they gave of PSG in the Champions League, the beating of Man City in the Carabao Cup, so that the beating of Man United with Newcastle reserves at Old Trafford. So I think there is a semblance that, certainly a way of thinking for me, that Eddie Howe, I think, personally, is a better manager in England than Ten Hag. I just not seen enough. I've seen enough from Howe's teams over the last 2 years to think, yeah, he can get them playing. He can get them mixing it with the big guys, even toe-to-toe. There's nothing I've seen, really, apart from the odd occasion from Ten Hag's teams that makes me think that it's going to be any different next year. And that's the difference at the moment. The eye test for Man United, for me, watching them, is... You saw it at the weekend, the Brentford game, Bournemouth at home. You know, there has been multiple games you go, how are they allowing these poorer teams in the Premier League to outplay them and often embarrass them? And for me, that I get what you're saying. And Man United fans will be looking, going, oh, yeah, it's FC, it's Man United bias. It's not. It is not. When you spend the amount of money they have spent, and I know they've had injuries as well, you cannot be dominated at Old Trafford and beaten 3 or 4-0 by Bournemouth. You can't allow Brentford in the first half to create the most chances ever in 45 minutes since they've been keeping those stats in the Premier League. That's telling you something's not right.
I think also in Eddie Howe's favour is when you put into perspective where those teams were when both managers took over. Eddie Howe took over a team that was rooted at the bottom of the Premier League, and while last season exceeded every single expectation, and the hope was to build on that, just in terms of assessing where their teams are right now and the difference between success and failure, you have to consider how far Eddie Howe has brought this Newcastle.
We'll never convince the people that watch this show anyway that we don't hate Man United. It's never going to happen.
Away from the anti-Manchester United ways, it's a big point for Everton, of course, as they scrap to avoid relegation once again this season. Meanwhile, A huge victory for Nottingham Forest, defeating Fulham by 3-1 means that 3 points separate them. Luton, Burnley could manage a 1-1 draw against
Look
Wolves.
at Chelsea.
Yeah, no, that's not Chelsea.
Shall we go there?
Sheffield United. Luton and Sheffield United, of course, in action against Liverpool and Arsenal over the next couple of days.